We also, Chris has come.
Hello and welcome to Fools in Fiction. This episode we're going to talk about time travel, which it seems is strange to me that we haven't talked about before because it's such a common thing in the pieces of fiction that we consume.
Yeah. We've been kind of researching it a lot
because what?
Chris,
Chris,
why are you here?
You made me run all this way.
What? Run? You ran from campus?
We're in Hollywood.
Yeah, we could have fucking texted you or teleported you here, like we did with all the other people.
Teleport?
Yeah, dude. Why have you not seen the group chat?
I don't. It's so silent.
What did you come here to tell us?
Fuck. Hold on, I've ran. Do you have water?
Yeah.
Okay. That's
Here.
dirty water. Here's a clean water.
Okay. Sorry, listeners. We'll get back to the.
This is the great ASMR experience we wanted.
The revolution has begun, and they need you back.
Wait.
I don't know how to interpret that.
Chris!
And he's out the door.
We could have teleported him back.
Yeah, I don't know why. I guess I don't know. I think that's a good sign. I mean, I don't think that's a good sign. I don't know. I think that's a good sign that we should go back to campus.
Yeah, but let's finish the podcast. So, like I was saying,
okay.
Well, this might be moot now.
Sorry, okay. Let's all get back into the headspace.
All right. So this might be moot now, but the reason we wanted to talk about time travel is we've been researching time travel.
Yeah.
As a possible way to go back in time and kill the network before any of the people really start it. And you might be going, Fools in Fiction people Finn Mayhew and Joe Brown, why wouldn't you go back and kill baby Hitler? To which I respond with, we tried and he's too powerful. We had a short test run and baby Hitler grappled Finn to the floor and then shot me in the knee. And we were able to get back. I'm fine. And Finn has only been slightly traumatized.
This is not true. We did not try and go back and kill baby Hitler. It has not been as successful as Joe has made it seem to be. I think Joe's playing it up for the podcast.
Okay, what really happened is I dropped some ice cream the other day, and I went back in time to stop that from happening. But I wanted it to be really dramatic, and you ruined my lie to the listeners.
Anyway, so I think that one of the big things with time travel stories is that I think the big problem that you run into with them is that when you add time travel into a story, you've got to really accept that it comes with a lot of baggage, whether that be paradoxes or how it influences
decision making.
Yeah, decision making. And if you don't deal with all that baggage, it can lead to some problems with suspension of disbelief.
Okay.
Do you think that that's a fair thing?
Yeah, I think so. I think some early time travel stuff, what is it? An Englishman in King Arthur's court or whatever it is, where a guy gets a fucking concussion and somehow travels back to the Middle Ages.
I don't know of this.
It's it's one of the earlier stories involving time travel. That didn't have anything to deal with it, but it you immediately were told to just don't worry about it. It just works.
Yeah.
Which I think is, yeah, that's not satisfying. You can do it where time travel is the Magic School Bus or any Discovery Science show that uses time travel to show kids the wonders of history. I think that's fine. You don't need to have Miss Frizz being careful not to crush any butterflies or you'll kill us all.
Yeah, it's not in the genre of that.
Yeah,
I think
so. I think time travel makes its own subgenre that has to worry about those rules, even though time travel as a concept can exist outside of them.
So I think the way something what is it called? Magic School Bus.
Yeah,
I was going to call it Miss Frizzle's Adventures. Like that's also a good title.
Yeah.
But the way that Miss Frizzle's Adventures deals with the baggage is by dismissing it due to the genre.
Yeah. Okay.
Of being a children's, like a very children's thing.
Yeah.
A very child.
Yeah.
Thing.
Very child. A very child. There's only one thing worse than a very rapist. A very child. Oh God. So I think Hot Tub Time Machine.
I haven't seen it. I really want to. I've been meaning to see it for a long time.
It's a show. It's one of those things where it's like it is very much the opposite of A Very Child. But it is like it has time travel in it, but it doesn't really matter why or how the time travel works. Just that it does, because it's definitely not the genre.
So it's like a dot product, if that makes any sense. Like if those two things, the like sci-fi-ness of the time travel and the genre that it's in are very different, then it makes there less of a problem.
Yeah.
But if they're overlapped, then you have to deal with. I guess that's the Chronicle Delta. R.I.P. Me.
What are you talking about?
Now I sound pretentious. If you know what the Chronicle Delta is, you know what I mean. This is a joke for all the Chronicle Delta fans out there.
All one of them that definitely listen to this podcast.
It's like a way of thinking about the dot product.
Okay.
Kind of the way of thinking about overlaps of things, I think, is what's relevant here.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Back to the podcast.
So thinking about kind of how to structure the rest of this episode, I believe, I guess I can just speak for myself, but I believe that both of us were thrown off by Chris's entrance.
Yeah, I'm a bit frazzled.
But thinking about how to structure this, I've written down a list of time travel things I thought about at dinner. That we could just work through if that works.
You were able to afford dinner while in Hollywood?
Yeah, I mean, one dinner. This was my one dinner. And thank God, because if we're going back after this...
Yeah.
I had one
I
dinner.
blew my one dinner when I got here. I was really pissed. All right, so what are we doing?
So, I think that a lot of these we've pretty much already covered. Like,
all right,
so
give it to me.
I guess let's try and categorize these in a way. So we got Primer. I think that this one, the time travel works. So again, the big problem is how do you reconcile all the baggage that comes with time travel? And we've already talked about you can do it through having such a different genre that it's just a non-issue.
Primer is like, not only is the genre not time travel, but the genre is also too much time travel. Like Primer does such a good job of trying to avoid paradoxes and explaining why time travel is like a fucking mistake. That like Shane Crew is a fucking madman. I can't believe that he made that movie.
Yeah, so I think that the reason that, in my opinion, Primer works is because they do really commit to, like, they, instead of trying to find a way to deflect the baggage, they just embrace all of it and have that be kind of what it's about. And then the genius thing to me is that they make it also a human story about how it can corrupt relationships in this.
Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that makes Primer really good sci-fi, in that it's, here's this new technology and here's how it impacts people in this really
tangible
way.
Okay.
I was going to say this really human way, but that's not it. It really impacts human people in a way. It really
impacts human people in a human way.
Yes.
Yeah. Another interesting thing about Primer is that it kind of does interesting stuff with like the imminent future of like an even fucking bigger time travel box is getting built, and it kind of promotes an idea of like a fucked future, but not like a post-apocalyptic one.
Oh, I didn't even write Terminator in here.
Terminator is a goddamn treasure, and also time travel is like, oof. Well, also, if you dissect every time travel movie except for maybe Primer, like you can find minuscule paradoxes. Terminator, like, kind of doesn't have too bad, because, like, it's implied that Kyle Reese and the T-800, like, the reason they get sent is because John Connor remembers them being sent / remembers Sarah Connor telling him about it.
Yeah, but that's not like a... Like, that's... I think it's implied, but I think that the whole heart of that story has to do with someone being sent to help someone else. And the fact that that's not, like, over an ocean or between planets, but it's between times is a little bit less of a... No, I don't know. I was going to say it's a little less, like, thematically relevant, but I think from Sarah's perspective, the idea of this apocalypse just about to happen is really relevant. So I don't know if my point is
She gets put into a fucking mental hospital
because
of it.
So for Sarah's character, it is really relevant, but for the audience, we can just say, oh, this is what's happening.
Yeah. The biggest thing I think relevant to Terminator is that T2 has that alternate ending where T2 like was, well, I won't say was supposed to be the end of the franchise, but had an ending that got cut where it was like the future's fine, like we stopped Cyberdyne and everything's good, which isn't canon, I don't think,
unfortunately. Well, the thing is, we can choose what's canon.
Well, yeah, but like T3 and Salvation and Genesis and the Dark something that just came out are like
Terminator, the Dark something. The something in the dark. There's something. Terminator.
Dark.
Something.
Dark and furious.
Yeah.
So my thing with that is that it part of the idea is like, oh, you can change the past. And then you're like, well, the past that they're changing isn't like going to be the future that they're changing. Yeah. Which is like a common thing in the like going back to change the future, which is what I think is interesting about the Terminator franchise right now. Because like it very much feels like the Terminators are being sent back in time to kill someone, to change the future.
Right.
But the Resistance forces are being sent to uphold the status quo, which is really interesting. Because like the purpose of the T-800 isn't to, like, stop Cyberdyne from being made. It is to prevent John Connor from being killed. So, like, I think that's really interesting. I don't know.
Terminator definitely has a lot of really interesting themes in it about the future and about time travel. And I think it all weaves really well into the narrative of it.
Yeah.
And it makes a really compelling thriller series, at least Terminators 1 and 2 that I have seen.
I agree. All right, next one.
Harry Potter. I don't remember the time travel very well, but
so I can kind of briefly explain it. That
which book was it again?
Prisoner of Azkaban.
Thanks.
So in that book, so basically, Sirius gets his fucking soul sucked out, or he dies. Like, Buckbeak is killed, and Sirius is going to be fucking fucked. And not,
I do remember this.
Not in the fun, consensual way. But so Hermione and Harry are like, what if we went back in time and like stopped that? Which, I mean, they do pretty well to avoid being seen, so there's not like two versions of them, and the actions that they do show up in the first timeline, so it's the thing of like
it seems consistent.
Yeah, it's just like not necessary in my opinion. Like I don't see why time travel had to be brought into it. There is far worse time travel in Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, but I only briefly know about that. And I don't want to get too much into it. So, spoilers for Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, there's time travel in it.
Yeah, I'm putting that down as minor spoilers.
All right.
So a little more about in Prisoner of Azkaban. I was actually coincidentally talking with Chris recently, and he was saying that he felt like...
How? Through fucking mind magic?
Through texting him.
How did he...
Chris has a phone. I don't know why. I guess he was just so...
He was so pumped up that he ran here?
Yeah, I guess it just happened. Like,
okay.
But I was talking with Chris, and he was saying that introducing time travel so briefly and then taking it out, kind of like it does open up all these possibilities and then closes it off, so it kind of shakes the suspension of disbelief. Do you think that's the case?
Yeah, it kind of rattled, because also it's like, hey, Hermione's been using this the whole fucking school year, and is like, no one notices her, and she's like the only person to use this, and it doesn't make sense why she's using it. There's a bunch of shit that I like disagree with.
I remember enjoying the spectacle of it, especially in the movie.
Yeah, like, it looks cool. I just don't think it's good narratively, because it, like, yeah, it does kind of rattle at the bars where you're like, well, if they can do this, why can't they stop, like, everything?
Yeah.
Which is, like, a huge problem in fantasy works in general, where you have, like, an omnipotent being. Right?
I think magic systems in general.
Yeah, magic systems are, like, really susceptible to that, so, like, saying why something can't be done through magic is, like, really persnickety.
Yeah, it gets into a lot of conversations, I think, with hard and soft magic, which I am not prepared to delve into.
No. All right. So is that it for Bear Butter?
That's it for bottom.
It just evolves.
That's it for bottom. Moving on to time. I felt myself, speaking of time travel, I felt myself editing this in the future cringing at me.
Finn from the future here can confirm.
Time crimes.
I have not seen Time Crimes.
Oh, let's not talk about time crimes.
Erase it from the record.
I'll time travel back into the past and get rid of time crimes.
Use the hand to scrape it away.
Yeah. Back to the Future. I know you probably have some thoughts about this. So okay.
This is an attack on my I think about Back to the Future all the time because it's my favorite movie. So, give me your takes,
and then you beat me up.
Yeah, and then I baptize you and clean you of sin.
I think it does it well because I think that it's almost, it's not quite the thing where it's not the Kronecker Delta thing where the genre is so different from sci-fi time travel that there's just no problem. Mm-hmm. It's like the style of it is so kind of not campy, but it's like
it's very
the fact that we see this the fading away thing, which like
it's not how a paradox would work.
Yeah, it's just like so seemingly ridiculous. It tells us that we're all right to not think about it.
Yeah.
And so I think in that way it really works and we get to focus on the story.
That's for Back to the Future 1.
Yeah.
I agree with.
Future 1.
So I will split up my takes into 3 individual chunks based on the parts.
Okay. Back
to the Future Part 1 is almost not a time travel movie. It's close. It is very much more about kind of When Harry Met Sally romance stuff, but with hijinks.
So explain to me what When Harry Met Sally is, because I hear people reference that and I don't know what it is.
It's just a romance movie.
Okay.
It's
a time travel movie?
No. It's just like a generic name.
Okay. I'll look that up later.
I have reference. So in my CD case or DVD case of all the DVDs that I like, I randomly have When Harry Met Sally in there because I've never taken it out. It was put there in accident. But back to the Future. Ha 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 ha. It has first of all the characters in it have or Doc and Marty have very strong moral senses. Doc's is on what you should use time travel. Well, both are kind of on what you should use time travel for, but Doc's is on you shouldn't use this for money or for, and this pervades throughout the film. You shouldn't use time travel for personal gain. I did this to see if I could, and to just kind of magic school bus.
Is Doc the one who invents the time travel in Back to the Future? Okay.
Doc Brown. And then Marty is kind of looser with it. He's it's fine to use time travel for personal gain, but the personal gain should be altruistic in a way. So the fact that Marty had like a shit. Well, I won't say a shitty life, but like not a life that he liked. And then at the end of Back to the Future 1, he like returns to the present, and he's like, "Wow, my life is cooler." Like he wouldn't see any problem with that. Or but like so in Back to the Future Part 2, Biff Tannen gets a sports almanac and like uses it to cheat his way to becoming literally a parody of Donald Trump. Like the writers literally were like, yeah, of course he's a parody of it. And like Marty's like, no, this is wrong. Like you shouldn't do this. And you could make an argument that like Marty's arguing like, oh, just be a good person, whereas Biff is like, be greedy and suit your own self-interest. There's like a lot of different takes you could take on it.
But all the characters have their own
like moral code, yeah.
About time travel.
Yeah. Like and Marty's changes over the series too. Because in Back to the Future 1, he's like, I'm going to go back and save Doc from getting gunned down by Liberians, I think?
No. They're...
The Libyans.
The Libyans, yes.
I knew it was a Lib something. So he specifically, he tries to convince Doc to read a letter that would save his life. And then Doc says, no, I'm not going to do it. And so Marty's like, I got to go back and save him. And then Doc changed his mind in the past and put back the torn up letter and like read it and was like, oh, I got to wear a bulletproof vest. But then towards the end, Marty lets the DeLorean get destroyed because he think it's what Doc said to do. Mm-hmm. And like he could have gone back in time to get Doc out of the Old West, but he elected not to. He was like, no, it's not right. And so like they shift and flow. Back to the Future 3 is probably the weakest of them.
In general or in reference to time travel?
Both. Like it's a Western with like time travel to get to the West, but also like don't get me wrong, I think it's a good movie. I just don't think it like hits all of the really, really great beats that 1 and 2 do. And my last thing I'll say about it is that Back to the Future is a masterclass on doing very small things to show like importance. So this is partly because Back to the Future's Part 2 and 3 were made at the same time. So Part 2 references Biff's like ancestor Mad Dog Tannen, who shows up in Part 3.
Right.
And like there's a lot of shit like that where the mall was called Twin Pines, and then when Marty goes back to 55 and he runs over it, it becomes Lone Pine. And fuck, man, that's like my favorite thing in any movie I've ever seen is the attention to detail it puts on it.
So do you think it's good that that Back to the Future is kind of like the face of time travel movies?
Yeah. I think the two faces are like Back to the Future and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Oh yeah,
and both of those do pretty serviceable jobs like with time travel. But I like them as the face because like sure, time travel is important in it, but it's not like the nitty gritty. Like if everyone knew Primer as the time travel movie instead of Back to the Future, people would hate the genre.
But I think it would be cool if people knew something a little like if people knew something like Terminator or something as the face of time travel too.
Yeah, I don't think it's like I don't think it would be a bad thing. I just think it's like I don't know. Like the problem becomes I also think Back to the Future being the face kind of spawned movies that were more into the hard
you think so?
Yeah, because like
that was my concern, is that it seems inaccessible with. I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I would imagine that making quote unquote serious time travel movies seems inaccessible with something more silly at the face.
Like,
and I don't mean serious as in serious movies. I mean serious as in the time travel series.
Yeah. I mean, you could make an argument for that. I would make an argument against it because, like, what's the fucking Tom Cruise movie that's based on time travel?
Does it have 21 Jump something, or is that
No, 21 Jump Street's a
What is
comedy.
21?
Hold on.
Really?
Yeah, it's based off
I don't
an
know
old 80s... What the fuck are you talking about? Hold on.
I haven't seen it. I just assume... So Tom Cruise is an actor I haven't seen. 21 Jump Street
Edge
is a
of
movie
Tomorrow.
I haven't seen. I'm like, those must be the same things.
Edge of Tomorrow is a time travel...
Sorry, I thought Joe just deleted Audacity from the world.
Oh. So, Edge of Tomorrow is more... It does time travel in an interesting way in that his consciousness is traveling through time, but he isn't physically. I also think Doctor Who at some points gets really into time travel, but there are like other things that don't, like Time Traveler's Wife doesn't.
Doesn't what?
Doesn't really get into the mechanics of the time travel, or like I don't know. It depends. It really does.
There's the ones I have listed here besides Star Trek, which I just wanted to point out because I think it does time travel well in the sense that because it's so episodic for most Star Trek series, the time travel bits can be confined to episodes.
Yeah.
Which, while not being super realistic, kind of gives us a framework gives the audience a framework to understand it, which I think is
it's also
fine
like
from a narrative
Q,
perspective. Yeah.
where this kind of problematic thing is cordoned off into its... So, like, you don't always have the looming specter of Q might fuck something up or anything. It's like Mr. Mxyzptlk.
What is that?
He's like Q for DC in that, like, theoretically he could always show up and fuck stuff up, but you don't think of him like a threat. He's like a nuisance, and you don't care about him in the same way that you care about, like, the Borg.
Yeah. And I care about the Borg.
We, the Borg.
I don't know what I'm implying when I said that. I thought I was going to lean close and say something funny.
But you didn't.
Maybe it was funny. We'll see.
I like the idea that, like, it's not funny now makes it funnier. All right. Next on the list.
Was I implying that I romantically care about the Borg?
Yeah, I think that's the safe bet.
Was that the joke that I was trying to do?
I don't know if it's what you're trying to do, but it's what the joke is now.
That's what the joke is. We did it. That's the joke.
All right, Finn's gonna sleep with the Borg.
The last two that I want to talk about here have time travel in a really different, interesting way that I thought could be useful talking about.
All right.
The first is the Missing series, which is a series I forgot I had read, or I'd forgotten the title of, but I read it in middle school.
Is it Lost Found? Is it the airplane books? No. I know that deals with time travel. Yes, it is, you dickhead.
I've only read a few books in it.
Found and Sent. I can't fucking believe you, you dumbass. I have read Found and Sent.
I think that's about as far as I have. But for those of us who haven't, I'm gonna write minor spoilers for the Missing series. The main way that it works, I don't remember how they, like, quote unquote physically time travel, but when you make a change in the past, the original still persists as kind of like a ghostly form that people can't really see, called a tracer. And then the changes that happen, like if someone got, like, physically bumped away to do something else, their time will try to heal itself by having the person, like, physically intersect with their tracer and then go back into the normal time stream they would have.
That's called some people call this the stretchy rubber pants of time.
That sounds like it's from TV Tropes. Is that from TV Tropes?
No, it's from So You Created a Wormhole.
Joe just pulled out a book on time travel.
Yeah, it's what I've been using for research. So the point...
I could have been using that for research if you told me you had that big ass book on time travel. Right?
It's not that big.
Let me see how big the letters are. Okay, it's not that big.
Yeah. Anyways, so the stretchy rubber pants of time kind of says it's an idea for how paradoxes are solved, because according to this book, there had been no paradoxes And one of the things the Stretchy Rubber Pants of Time says is that time will not let you create a paradox.
By some reasonings, by definition.
Yeah, like either you like maybe that's why Baby Hitler was so strong.
Jared, this did not happen.
Look.
I will not abide this.
No, God damn it!
I cannot be known to be the one who failed to kill Baby Hitler.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Anyways, so the idea is that either when you go back in time trying to change the future, or not even trying to change the future, that what you do can't impact the future.
So everything will conspire, as they say in physics, such that everything turns out as it needs to.
Yeah. Or you can change things, but other things will conspire around it.
Yeah.
So either you can't...
Which is a little less physicsy.
So either you can't change the past, or time fixes itself. Mm-hmm. Pardon me. Which is interesting. All right. I have two minor things. That I'll do very briefly. What is the last in your list?
The last in my list is talking about, at the same time, Shift, the story I have written that no one has read, and Dragon Ball Z, which have the same time travel mechanic.
Okay. There's more time travel in Dragon Ball Z than you know about?
Oh, yes, I know that there is.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know what it is, but I know that there's more than I know.
Okay. Weird, but it makes sense.
It's because I saw Dragon Ball Z so long ago that I had forgotten a good deal.
All right, give it to me.
But the instance that I'm thinking of is, or I don't know what the instance is either. I can barely name like characters.
All right,
but the idea is that when you time travel, you travel to a parallel world.
Yeah. So
which avoids paradoxes.
Yeah, that occurs most of the time that we see time travel in Dragon Ball. It happened. Well, Trunks is usually the one that it matters with, but Trunks comes back from the future to warn the Z fighters about the androids, and then in Dragon Ball Super, they go into an alternate universe with the same kind of Trunks.
So I think that avoids a lot of the problems because it's really clear what's happening if you know that that's what's happening.
Yeah,
the audience knows.
It makes sense in that. So like, if I wanted to time travel back in time and kill the network, I could do that. I just wouldn't be...
You wouldn't kill this network.
Yeah, exactly. I'd kill another network. And then if I time traveled, where it gets kind of iffy is when you can travel and see tangible change. So I forget what does it, but something does it where like it's definitely shifting universes. And the point is that the thing that's shifting accommodates the change.
Can you rephrase everything you just said? I didn't understand.
So like in Dragon Ball, when Trunks goes back in time and deals with the androids, he returns to his own universe after that.
Oh, but yeah.
And I forget what it is, but there is a narrative that I remember reading where what would have happened is instead the way he time traveled remembers what would have changed and sends him to another universe.
So you can model that as just like the universe splits at that point, and he's now on the different path.
Yeah, which is like, he either like goes just to another universe that would follow the path, or he goes back to his original.
Which is to me, well, maybe I just haven't consumed enough media, but it seems like there's an opening there in terms of like a narrative opening there in terms of what happens to the universes you leave behind, like if you just disappear or what. And like, what if you don't know that you're switching universes and you think you have made a change when in reality all you've done is left your original universe that was in the peril?
Well,
and I do want to be honest. This is me advertising Shift. This is what happens in Shift.
So for what happens when you leave, Dragon Ball addresses that in that you just don't exist not forever.
So you can't go back and solve a problem. Essentially,
no,
you're just moving yourself to a better world.
Yes, but Dragon Ball also addresses like why you would do that. / why you might leave your other world in peril. And there's 2 reasons. One is to obtain a new viewpoint or something else that would let you fix that problem or at least alleviate it.
If you could come back?
Yeah. So Trunks just gets objectively stronger when he's training in the past. So when he comes back to his present / future, whatever, his timeline, he can kill the androids. But
all of that is dependent on him coming back to his timeline.
Yeah, which, like, if he died, it wouldn't happen.
Right.
But the other reason is out of, like, a moral obligation to reduce harm, in that Trunks believes he's, like, more... So the reason he comes back is to warn them about the androids, and more specifically, to give Goku heart medication that will save his life. And they're like, oh, with Goku not dead, we'll have a better chance. So, the reason for that isn't that he thinks it will help his timeline, but because it is an objectively good thing to do for a timeline less fortunate.
So if he didn't do that other timeline wouldn't have existed? This is getting strangely close to the, what do they call it? In my one philosophy class, we talked about it's like the identity, the self. Shoot, it's the whole argument about that it's really hard to find a reason to not do drugs when you're pregnant. Do you know about this?
I know a bit.
And I mean, I'm not saying this is a good argument, but I have yet to find a problem with it, which is, and a lot of people have yet to find a problem with it, as I learned about in class. That if you are like someone says, hey, don't do drugs and drink so much when you're pregnant because your child might have birth defects. And you're saying, and the bad mom character in this scenario says, but like, it's not like I'm not harming them because I'm not making them worse off, because there's no person to be harming at that stage.
Yeah,
I misrepresented that in a few ways.
There's similar problems with, like, Ollie Philosophy Tube had one in a video where it's like, let's say that you build an energy plant, and because of all the work needed for it, you have, like, a bunch of people move and live there, and those people meet up and have families. But, oh no, the energy plant has runoff, and it makes the kids of those families really sick.
Oh yeah, this is
and
similar.
It's like, is that bad? Because in one universe, the kids are sick, but in the other, they don't exist.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
so. Like, it kind of touches on that, because the thing with Trunks is that he starts in, let's call it universe B for bad. And he goes back to, like, the Prime universe. We'll call it universe A for awesome. So he goes back in time. We'll say he goes back in time. Whether or not he goes to a universe that, like, has different time flow or whatever, we'll generously say he goes back in time.
Okay.
He thus warns the Z Fighters about this problem and gives them heart medication for Goku. So he then uses his time machine to travel into the relative future of that universe. Because he's like, I'm not going to fucking dick around. Like, we have 3 years. And I'm not going to just wait here for that. So he goes... So, like, that kind of branches off from Universe A's trajectory, which is to become Universe B. But he doesn't change his own universe by doing this, but he changes the trajectory of Universe A, which means that there's, like, a trace of Universe A somewhere out there in the multiverse that doesn't have that, which is, what eventually turns into Universe B, theoretically. And so it's this thing of, like, kind of helping, but, like, you could argue, like, well, he's only helping one thing in an infinite sea of, like, worse things.
I think this all ties fairly closely to, like, non-sci-fi issues of morality, which of course is, like, part of, I believe, the point of sci-fi is to be talking about real things.
Yeah,
And
it gets into
disguising it
like
as-
a utilitarian thing, and like you're
Yeah.
so
But by the way, this is called the non-identity problem. I googled it.
okay. So yeah, it really does sum up the thing of what is your duty to reduce harm.
Yeah.
And like, can you reduce harm to something that won't exist? So like, if it were the case that like Trunks going back in time like completely obliterated Universe B, would he be reducing harm to that future?
It sounds dark, but is a terrible existence better than no existence? And this is a problem with vegetarianism too. Because like, do you want to have like sure, now there's a ton of cows.
Yeah.
Is it better that we have a ton of suffering cows than no cows?
Well, and then you also bring in the problem of like,
that is a problem for me that I have to deal with.
There's an interesting problem, and this isn't me trying to get you to stop being a vegetarian, but this is me posing so that we have all of these cows for a specific purpose, theoretically. And therefore, is it moral that we all just suddenly stop eating meat? And you have all of these cows, and like so many cows that you can't reasonably care for them all. That like all the cows that you would have eaten have now had kids, and those are gonna have kids. And so unless you start killing cows, like it becomes overpopulated, or controlling cow birth rates, which is possible in some aspects but not possible in others. And so my thing is just like, we basically have done it so that this is another problem with like getting rid of the penny, is that what happens when the penny is no longer legal tender? What do we do with all the pennies lying around? Which like, it doesn't map 1-to-1. Like, you shouldn't be asking, what do we do with these cows? Because like, they're living beings. But how do we care for these slash what do we do with resources? At some point,
you got to realize, I think, that you cannot be expected to totally morally identify every single aspect of your life and existence.
Gasp. That's why I don't bother like justifying eating meat.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, and like I
mean, I don't think it's like in a moral sense. I don't think it's fine to eat meat, but I think it's fine for people to eat meat.
Yeah,
which might not make sense, but like
it's a personal moral thing. Where like both you and Sean are like, I'm not going to eat meat anymore. And I'm just like, I'm going to eat meat because I like eating meat, and also I don't think that like I have multiple reasons where I'm like, I don't think me eating meat in and of itself is a morally bad thing. Anyways, back to time travel. To round it out.
Okay.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Let me remember when time travel happens in that.
Thinking.
Time travel does not happen in JoJo. Wait, does it? It does. It happens in part 4.
Yes. Okay.
I got it.
Dude, I was going to fucking crucify you if you did not recall that. So
right, bites the dust.
Yes.
Okay.
Which, I mean, time travel will show up when you finish part 5. Kind of shows up in like wonky stuff with time is a classic in JJBA, and so the thing with the time travel in JoJo's is it doesn't create really any paradoxes or anything, because Bites the Dust has like, so Bites the Dust just loops time, but it can be turned off, so you can like Hayato's trying to prevent Rohan's death. I'm sorry, for those that cannot see, which is everyone listening to this, Finn had put JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 4 in minor spoilers, and then I said Rohan is trying to Hayato is trying to prevent Rohan from dying, and he cuts it out and puts it in the major spoilers section. So Hayato is trying to do that, and he can't reveal to anyone who Kira is. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean that he can't change the future. And he, notices that, too.
This is very clever. I love them doing this.
Oh, yeah. Because what he ends up doing, huge, colossal spoilers for this, is that he calls Josuke from his house, but he doesn't say anything. Or he says something minor that can't really let Josuke know who Kira is. And what Kira does, big dumb idiot that he is he reveals it just in front of Hayato. And then Josuke was walking over to the house because he looked it up in the phone book, and he overhears it, and he's like, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. And Kira's like, fuck. So they save Rohan.
Part 4, it just everything falls into place in a very not gracefully falling, but in a clanking around and then whoop.
Yeah, it's
really wonderful.
It's like if you played Jenga.
Yeah.
And the Jenga tower fell, but it fell into 2 neatly stacked smaller Jenga towers.
Yeah, that's what the end of part 4 feels like.
Which is truly incredible.
Yeah, it really is.
But so the interesting thing with that is I think it brings up the weird thing of time travel's busted. In that, well,
I mean, this is known.
Well, yeah, but it's so when you're just going most time traveling characters aren't malicious or anything like that. So or deities that exist outside of time or whatever. So the Doctor isn't malicious, and pardon me, Marty McFly isn't malicious.
Yeah.
So usually you don't have to go time travel is too broken to give to one man, because the one person usually gets it. I've got the hiccups. Sorry. Is usually a good person, but it kind of brings up the fact that dude, time travel's fucking busted. How are you supposed to beat it? That's another thing is beating time travel, or beating an opponent that can time travel is usually not, or it's not a factor in what we've talked about.
Right.
Whereas for JoJo's, it's fuck, how do I overcome this?
I think that JoJo's is the only instance I've seen that. And a thing I would really love to see is an instance where the time traveler doesn't know that they've time traveled. I've never seen that before, and I would love
Kira
to.
doesn't. He doesn't know that he's time traveled, because whenever the
universe
resets, he has to learn from the way that Hayato's acting.
Right, I totally forgot. Well, I'd love to see that in other cases too.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's it. I don't know if we have time for Dream Haiku, because we're being summoned off into the revolution.
Yeah, I also didn't write one, but I'm going to argue that since Chris was here for a second, it counts as a
collab and therefore not legally binding.
Yeah, I realized 10 minutes in that I didn't write one. But yeah, we have to. It looks like we have to go.
Our draft number has come up.
This lines up with us going on hiatus, so I guess it all works out.
We will let you know if we die in the revolution or if we are victorious. I don't know who we're revolting against. I think it's probably Catherine Rose Frisbee Club.
This could be a trap.
Oh, this might be a trap.
No, I'm ready. I'm going to rush in. Let's do it right now. Let's teleport, okay?
All
right. 3, 2, 1.
Please, for the love of God, turn the podcast off.